Right, so thanks folks. This week we're talking about money, which seems obvious when we're talking about cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin and etc. So two companies and two projects I know very well for different reasons. Really happy to have the two CEOs of Plynk, Charles Dowd. Plynk are a very successful Irish startup from last year. I got some serious funding, went through the traditional VC route. And our payments platform. Thanks very much, Charles. And also Kevin Murcko from Murcko.
Close enough.
Kevin Murcko from CoinMetro, a company I've been advising for the last several months. This is a next generation exchange platform for cryptocurrencies. Thanks very much, guys, for coming in. Charles, just can you give us I didn't probably do Plynk justice there. Maybe you could just give us the elevator pitch on what Plynk is.
Yeah, it's good that you're talking about money. So Plynk is, we're building a social network around money. So we're turning money into a media type so people will actually learn to have conversations about money that are not strained and complicated. And to do that, we basically created this product, which is a messenger, which allows you to have one-to-one private conversations or create small groups. And within those contexts of those conversations, you're talking about money. So it's a specific messenger just for money conversations. And that's really important because you want the context to be money. So if you meet someone for coffee and they owe you money, you'll probably talk about the money after many preambles, whereas a money messenger allows you to segue directly to, hey, you know, I'd like to pay you the money I owe you for the fun time we had last night. Sure. We're focused on turning money into to make it work like cash. We want digital money to work like cash. Cash is really, really cool, right? If I take 10 euros out of my pocket, I hand it to Reuben, it moves right away. 100% of the value actually transfers. It's irreversible, and he can use it right away. There are 4 really important attributes that are really difficult to deliver in digital. And so that's actually the product that we've actually been delivering for people. And we're about a year live, having fun times, learning really cool stuff. And I'm really excited about the fact that we can change money without actually necessarily jumping into crypto.
Well, I think when we spoke, I mean, when we first met, I guess it was before you guys had done all your funding. I will get back to that in a second. And Kevin, maybe just give us a quick overview of what CoinMetro are, where you are at, and maybe how you differentiate from other traditional money exchanges.
Sure. So I think at the core, we're actually looking to bring traditional money, what people would consider traditional money, or fiat money in this space, into the crypto realm, and simplify the way that the money actually transmit, almost like what Charles talked about, in the sense that obviously cash is you can give somebody cash. It's very easy. It's simple. Nobody is going to have to read a white paper to figure out how to move 10 euros from one person to another. And right now in the crypto space, it's difficult. Even if you know what you're doing, it's difficult. So the core of us is simplification, which comes from the regulatory side. So actually embracing regulation, attempting to help regulation expand and make sure that the regulation is done correctly so that we can merge traditional finance with crypto. Because at least in my eyes, if we don't do that, the road forward is going to be much more difficult, especially for exchanges that are currently operating.
So I want to kind of throw this at either of you and see, but I mean, so we're talking about digital money versus cryptocurrency. Mm-hmm. Would one of you like to kind of differentiate the two terms just for people who wouldn't be so familiar? Or, well, how
Sure.
can you differentiate? What are the strengths and weaknesses?
Yeah, so maybe I'll take the digital bit.
Sure.
Yeah. So first, what we mean by digital is no physical manifestation. So you sign up in an app or online, you verify your identity through a digital process. You identify and find your friends and contacts through a digital process. You execute everything in a digital world. And there's, even when it comes down to making transactions, for instance, paying at a point of sale or whatever, we do Android Pay, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay. So literally end-to-end sign up all the way through to transferring funds and getting it spent you never see the physical light of day. That's to digital for us, essentially. Yeah. So maybe the crypto side.
Yeah, I think for me, I'd probably say digital money is the virtualization of physical currency.
Sure.
Where crypto, in and of itself, is obviously is a protocol. There's a protocol behind it, which is the blockchain for sure. And it's illiquid by its very nature. You're not tying it to a fiat currency. So fiat currency obviously have inflation and deflation and all these other things tied to them, where crypto, in its essential nature, does not. So I guess that would be the...
So, I mean, cryptocurrency has been hailed as being the next generation of payments because of this cryptographic security that you get with it. Now, Charles, why is that not necessarily on your digital payments platform? Or is it something that you even, is it roadmapped? I mean, I know we spoke in the past about, and I want to kind of get back to this, but we spoke in the past about, well, why not crypto involved in Plynk? And you had some strong reasons at the time. I wonder how that thought process has developed.
Or regulation is one?
No, and the reasons are actually really, really simple. So one of our core attributes is we want, like, you take the cash element, right? If I hand you 10 euros, it moves instantly 100% of the value. I can't do that with crypto. Like, unless you go ahead and you basically create an at-risk pool of cash that essentially you use to actually manage the settlement piece.
But you have the settlement piece. This is what Plynk essentially has, that layer of liquidity.
Yes.
Because cash doesn't. If I tried to transfer cash from my bank account or from my Visa card to you guys through traditional methods, it would take several days, even if it is SEPA digital bank transfer, right?
Yes.
So this is what Plynk's value add is this liquidity layer on top that will allow people to immediately transact on your platform.
Yes, and if we could do that with crypto, we would. We're not opposed to crypto. So there are a bunch of elements to crypto, right? So the blockchain technology, which is really interesting, which is not that revolutionary. Like anybody who's actually checked code into GitHub essentially has been using a blockchain for centuries, right? So it's a really interesting tech. But the really interesting part of crypto is the way in which liquidity is managed, right? Yeah. So basically the asymptotic delivery of the actual life cycle of the currency. Mm-hmm. So basically the maximum size of the currency and then the amount of time it takes to deliver that currency and the effort it takes to actually move it forward. Sure. The challenge is the effort, right? So the effort has to become asymptotically more, or basically exponentially more complex, which means that as you add nodes and as you add to the network, it actually becomes slower, which is kind of, so counterintuitive in a digital world to me, is that the bigger it gets, the slower it becomes, as opposed to it becomes faster. And I understand, more people signing off on the ledger is good. Mm-hmm. It just creates this challenge where it becomes less useful because of the way that's implemented, right? And so I think that's, to me, feels like that's the problem to solve, right? Mm-hmm. And if we could solve that problem, then I think we would be embracing crypto a lot more.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Kevin, I think we at CoinMetro, be careful, no, we're all clean. No, I mean, obviously I've been close to the team now as we're getting close and through the ICO, and kind of feeling that there is a very strong community around CoinMetro. You guys have taken some steps to solve some of these issues around liquidity.
I would really love to hear about some of the products that you have, because you have both products for consumers and kind of professional investors as well.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, just to give us an idea about what it means, or what is it? I mean, so Charles, I mean, it's an interface. You get it. It's an app. I mean, I know it from early days, but I mean, it's obviously. How many users have you got now on the app?
This is about 25,000.
Yeah, so you got a good user base. Obviously, feeding into it and looking to grow. CoinMetro, is that going to be a user base, a public facing? Is it going to be something that we can touch and feel? And
Sure. So to me, I think I see a lot of players in this space, or a lot of people coming into this space trying to create a crypto bank, so to speak, right? So they come in and they want to create basic banking options, but on the blockchain. And to me, a fiat to crypto exchange is a de facto bank without a banking license, right? Because you're basically offering similar services to the crypto community. So based on that notion, we have an exchange at the core. So everybody knows what an exchange is. You exchange, right? So you go on, it's a matching engine between participants. So you have someone that wants to sell, someone that wants to buy, those orders connect, and you have a transaction. Which means that transaction is immediate, because the Bitcoin or the euro or the dollar or the whatever they're transacting is already in our system. We're already the custodian of those funds. Okay. So in that essence, that transaction is immediate and it happens immediately. But based on that core structure, we also have auxiliary services. So investment type services where you can be an investor or you can be someone that's actually managing assets. And then off of that, there's other auxiliary services. So like I said about the simplification of crypto, right now to get money in or out is daunting, even if you know what you're doing. Even if you have a checklist and you've done it before, it can be daunting. So there needs to be ways to get not only liquidity in, but also get funds out, and it needs to be simplified. So that brings in debit cards, that brings in merchant services, that brings in a whole realm of other services that generally would come from a traditional financial institution like a bank.
Yeah.
But in this case would come from an exchange.
Well, when we talk about money and I guess transacting value and looking at ways that both your platforms and projects are impacting it, how have traditional financial institutions or traditional I suppose credit cards, etc. What's the reception been like with them? I know the answer to this, but
the reception might be a strong word, Reuben.
Yeah. Static.
This is the quick story that I usually give when somebody asks that question, because that question gets asked a lot. So you could walk into a bank today with a business plan. Take a business plan out of crypto, basically a white paper, and remove crypto and blockchain from that, and present it to a bank, and they will be quick to open you an account. Oh, this is great. Please bring us your business. And then somewhere really small in the corner, you write the word blockchain, and they happen to notice it, and they kick you out of the building. That's essentially what right now the overall reception is to the. So for us, and so I come from the FX space, and my FX broker is regulated in Vanuatu. So I'm just waiting for a few laughs.
No, it's like
so yeah, Vanuatu, and we've been able to get banking, and the way to do it, and the same thing here in crypto, the same thing is you go regional first. And once you have regional relationships, you're able to piggyback on regional relationships, because usually those regional banks have larger shareholders that are larger banks. So you can go from regional to multinational on the back of that relationship. And so we did it in Forex, regulated in Vanuatu. Again, please hold your laughter till the end. And we're the same thing kind of happens in crypto. There's a lot of cross waves between retail FX and crypto. It really is. There's so many similarities between how the industries kind of started, how they became regulated, where they are today.
For me, one of the interesting things about having you two guys on the same couch is that, Kevin, you're obviously Mexican.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody could figure that out.
No, you are technically Mexican, right?
I am technically Mexican, naturalized Mexican citizen.
And Charles, you're Irish. And so and again, we look at the funding, the VC versus ICO, regulation versus regulated, very strict. I mean, incubated in Bank of Ireland. We were alongside each other, Blockchain Association of Ireland and yourselves.
White hat, black hat, basically.
Grey hat.
Grey hat. Trying to become white.
Exactly, and then the largely unregulated space of ICOs and crypto investment. What are your own thoughts? I mean, Charles, what's your thoughts on the ICO space as somebody who you chose not to go that route?
I don't understand it enough. That's the honest situation.
That doesn't stop many people.
I learn by doing.
When I look at the ICOs that are out there, I'm a mathematician by graduate, so I can actually read the white papers, and most of them really are. I can use expletives, piles of shit, right? They're actually just self-referencing, recursive garbage, right? And you read it and go, wow. And even Ethereum actually, has stuff in it that you read and go, this is just, people actually trying to make something super intellectual when it's not, right? It's literally, wow. So you put some pseudocode inside a block and you can execute that. That's great, right? At the end of the day, that's the entire thing, right? And so many ICOs have been built on the back of this Ethereum idea, which this idea that they're smart contracts, so just little bits of code, right? Which are really interesting, but actually don't solve a huge number of problems in my mind, right? And when you go in and you look at it, so there's really interesting stuff in security, and there's loads of coins for that or whatever. I think if we have a real valuable way to describe how a crypto token could actually help our business or help our customers and make money move faster, make it more instant, make it more fun, then we would actually adopt that and do that. But I think that raising money from an ICO or raising money from an IPO or raising money from a VC is all essentially the same thing. It's still like a source of funds that you have to deliver on a plan to, right? So,
I would really love to know, because you guys are in two kind of different spaces, where each of you see the future of fiat currencies, euro, dollar.
This is, absolutely. I think this is an interesting time because for me, when we talk about money and what it is, and we're exchanging in and out of fiat versus thing, I mean, are you of the same mind that for me, that this is the beginning of a bigger change of what we consider money to actually be?
Yeah, I just kind of give it like a little analogy, right? So, most people don't understand, for instance, how an SMS gets from A to B, right? Right, but
no, exactly.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but when you think about it, right?
I don't know how.
But all they know is like you send in, it works, right? And then it's like, oh, what's the difference between that running on the SMS network versus running on IP, right? You don't care. You just go, oh, actually, it either gets delivered or not. I like to get my 2 ticks on my WhatsApp, right? Mm-hmm. Then I know to get angry at people that haven't gotten back to me. But like you think about it, actually people don't understand how it works, right? What they actually have that they look for is, does it have utility? So is there more utility? So definitely everything is becoming digital. I actually think that cryptocurrencies have this challenge because people denominate them in fiat currencies. Exactly. You think about right now, even you talked about it's down 20%. Well, it's not down 20%, right? For sure. You know what I mean? It's like
if you think about like worth one Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's like if you have to have commerce, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have people spending and respending the same currency, then you don't see the volatility, right? Exactly. You see the volatility in international trade. So euro versus the dollar, you see volatility, but within the Eurozone, you don't see volatility because there isn't any, right? So ultimately that will go that way. I actually believe, and this is like really like kind of out there, I actually think that the European, the EBA and the ECB and the Euro will actually they will adopt, I think, crypto technology for the euro.
First, folks.
Charles
Dowd, CEO.
Because the reason why is that the European Union is based on this idea of openness and trade, right? And if you think about what crypto is really about, is openness and trade, right? It's like that the best thing for I think for the Eurozone would be complete transparency of all transactions happening in the Eurozone, because there's 4,785 banks or something in Europe, right? Who are all part of the separate region. And for a regulator to be able to see into those is almost impossible. You have to go knock on the door and say, can I have your records, please?
Whereas with cryptocurrency, you got a full transaction history of everything that's ever been done.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
that
the
would be really
regulators
interesting.
Slowly starting to realize exactly what you just said. Because initially there was this whole idea that cryptocurrency was narco traffickers and financing terrorism and all these scare tactics and scary words that they would push out on media. But they're starting to realize how transparent and how easy it is. I mean, how hard is it to track cash? Obviously, they talk about money laundering issues. Like people don't money launder cash, like
and
cash
that's a really
isn't
good
laundered.
point because if we look at like HSBC, they got done for money laundering.
They paid billions and billions of dollars and
allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. Allegedly. Yeah. Sorry, I'll make sure we say we don't want HSBC coming and knocking on the door. Allegedly, but they allegedly also paid a lot of money.
It's like any technology, right? Is the early adopters are always going to be people who see the edges, right?
Yep.
And it's like, oh, this is actually a new thing. It's got a little bit of edge on it. So you'll get loads of people pile in. Sure. How many pets.coms were there before there was Amazon? It's like, how many IPOs did you need to have in 1999 to actually create
Flues? Does anybody remember Flues?
Oh, no.
Flues was a digital cash during the IPO bubble in the early 90s.
My point is, how many Ripples and Trons and whatever else do you have to have before you get an Amazon coin or a Google coin? Once these big boys sort of weigh in and start having payment methods that are...
and they're just waiting for regulation.
Exactly. So, I think my point at the moment is that, or sort of something I'm hearing and kind of seems to be echoed by what your guys' point of view is, that regulation is probably it's inevitable and probably helpful rather
100% inevitable.
I think, and the first regulation is not going to come from the banking regulation. The first regulation on crypto is actually going to come from the departments of finance, right? Basically, it's how do you tax this thing? Yes. Once you work out how to tax something, everything else is easy, right?
And litigation. Litigation will fuel regulation.
Yeah, exactly. It's just,
for sure.
we all live, like, you're originally from the US, so the US and Ireland, we have this common law basis, right? Which is actually litigation-based law, right? It's just very interesting. And I think that's kind of what people want. They just want somebody to push the edge and then someone will take a case, and then that'll set the precedent, and then we'll move forward. I'm quite like I think that it's the right way to go. There are just huge technical issues. To me, like you can see the banks, what they do. The banks are really interesting, right? So they go, we don't want to deal with crypto because that sounds really scary, but we love blockchain, right? You kind of go like
DLT. That's what
like it's like now it's distributed ledger technology, right? So another those acronyms that we've been talking about earlier. But it's interesting to actually watch like cherry picking. That's like you just cherry pick one piece of the technology and say, well, I don't have to deal with the rest. But the thing is that the coins and tokens don't actually exist. It's the actual, the actual. They exist in the chain, right? So it's just a complete misunderstanding of the technology. And a lot of that is typical FUD, right? Which is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So if you want to kill something, you embrace it really hard, right? And then hopefully it goes away and you don't have to deal with it, right? That's kind of seems to be the approach. But I actually think that if we really, and then you have like you guys, whatever the cryptophiles, whatever, and you kind of ignore, I think you ignore the big issue, right? Which is the big issue to me is the whole mining, proof of stake, proof of power, whatever. Proof of loss, whatever, all these things, right? Something has to happen in there. Lightning's not the answer. Lightning is just a fudge, right? Which breaks the system, right?
You don't speed something up by adding something to it.
So to me, it's
going
like,
off of it to speed it up.
We've got to get to a point where, like the Visa, MasterCard rails, right? You've got to get to a point where crypto can be the similar speed, power,
I agree 100%.
delivery, right? And once that happens, then it's a no-brainer.
But I think we're all under the understanding that will happen. I don't think there's a world that doesn't happen. Even if you take this entire, to me, I think, and this happens almost in almost every industry, right? When an industry initially starts out, there's the supporters and the cheerleaders, and there's, especially in the financial space, then the regulators, and they scare everyone, and it's almost like it's a record that just keeps spinning, and it gets old after a while. And like I said, Forex, as it happened in Forex, it's happening now in crypto. 20 years from now, who knows what it's going to be called? There'll be some other acronym or some other. But going digital, why wouldn't it go? We've already gone digital with money.
Yeah.
Who goes now and makes a purchase and doesn't use a card we're already digitalized. I mean, the step from being digitalized to where you can. Reuben and I went to have some coffee earlier. You take your card out and you just lay it out. You tap it on the machine. Like, we're so lazy now with money, we can't even slide the card or insert it. We have to just tap it. So we've already gotten to the digitalization point. It's really just almost not even a step. It's like a half step to get to digital money. And I think we're not even that far away. I hear 36 months. I think regulators are going to move so fast to come together and just take I wouldn't even call it currency, but crypto assets and merge them into existing laws. And then you're going to have all the lawsuits and all the litigation that's going to follow. It's going to set so much precedent, and it's going to happen very fast. It's going to snowball. So to me, I think we start to see a first world country start to do an actual blockchain test on their currency, and I think it's going to be, for me, it's a Commonwealth country. That's my bet, and I think it happens within the next 18 months.
Guys,
I think that is a great place to leave. This is such a deep topic, and I want to talk about it so much more.
But I think, thanks a million.
Thanks so much for coming out.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate
Excellent. Thanks a million. Really good fun.
Thank you.